Hey guys, Bruce the Lab Dad here. We're out in the shop today and we're talking about our veterinary bedding or our vet fleece. We've got a sample today. This is our Super Deluxe with the non-skid back. And as we've talked before, super high density, real thick, pile height of about an inch, sometimes a little more than an inch, and super dense, non-crushable, super comfortable, super absorbent. And so let's take a look today at what actually happens with vet fleece when it gets water on it, or when it gets moisture on it. So this could be from a puppy that urinates on it, could be from an older dog that's got a dribble problem at night, could be from a dog in a crate that has an accident, or if you have a sporting dog, could be a dog that just got out of the pond and or out of the lake and is dripping wet and dripping in their crate. So I've got about a quarter cup of water in my syringe here. We've colored it blue so we can see what happens. So we're going to drip this on, and in some cases just do a heavy dose in a certain area, kind of simulate a couple of different things. We're just dripping here if we had the drips, or if we actually urinated heavily right there in one spot. So we can see that even though we can see that water on there, the water has actually been wicked down in and absorbed into the fibers. And as we just let that set for a moment or two, and we take a white paper towel and lay it on top and just press on it a little bit, we can see that basically there's very little of it that's still wet on top. And that's the whole point of the vet fleece. So I can put my hand on here. I feel a little bit of moisture, but nothing that's soaking wet and nothing that isn't going to dry quickly. Now, we talked about the vet fleece does not contain the water. It's actually meant to have the water go all the way through and be absorbed underneath. However, in this case, you can see with this material being so thick, there's nothing. In fact, I'll show with a white towel, there's nothing underneath that's wet. And then we can see the blue outline where it has absorbed all that water and it's spread out. And that is the beauty of the vet fleece. It's going to take that surface water, wick it down in, spread it out amongst the fibers. Now, as more water gets in there, obviously that's going to build up and it's going to start to go through. Or over time, as the water continues, gravity draws it through, it's going to come out the back of this. But for the time being, we're dry underneath, we're effectively dry on top. Walk across like that, effectively dry on top. And then we can hit that if it's in a whelping box. We could hit that with some Lenny Shield to take the odor away, give you a little more time between washing. So that's a nice demonstration of what the fleece does. In fact, you can see it on the edge here a little bit, where the water has collected on the edge and is spread out across the bottom. And now, obviously, over time, that's going to start to work its way through. So fundamentally, that's how vet fleece works. It's terrific. Now we can just throw this in the washer, clean it up, dry it out, and use it again. So once that liquid has been soaked into these dense fibers, it spreads out across the bottom, and you can see kind of the blue hue here around the outside. In fact, there we're starting to run the water out a little bit as that water has soaked in throughout the small piece that we have here. So you can imagine if this was a large piece, it would be distributed throughout. But ultimately, it is going to run through. That's the way it's designed. You would have a Lennypad or a vinyl liner or something else underneath that was then going to absorb that water while the pad was sitting on top. And you can see here, obviously, how the water has spread across the fibers, and that's the activity that's getting it to wick away from the top and stay soft and dry on top. It's almost nearly dry on the top side. So we just did a test of putting about a quarter cup of water in this piece of fleece, and we can see, obviously, just with the blue color, where that water has been, and then we can see on the edges where it's soaked out to, and we did stand it up a little bit, and some of it ran out. But in essence, I would say probably 85 to 90% of that water has been contained in this fleece. That was a quarter cup of water. Just for grins, I've got about another 2 cups of water, and this piece of fleece is only about 9 or 10 inches square. Let's go ahead and pour 2 cups of water on it and see what happens. See how the fleece manages it. So it's soaking all the water in, pouring it around the outside, going to come across the middle, go out here to the edge a little bit. Again, this is going to be, by the time I get this all in, it's going to be just a little over 2 cups of water in about a 10-inch square piece of super dense veterinary bedding. So it's absorbed all the water now off the top. Obviously still a little bit wet on the top because we put so much water in. You can see around the edges, we're starting to soak in. It is running through as it should. And it's running out, which of course is what it's supposed to do in that orientation. It's supposed to absorb the water and then have the water flow through and get collected on an absorbent pad below. So, I mean, and obviously that's a bit of an extreme. I mean, that's 2.5 cups of water in a 10-inch piece of fleece. So that has absorbed a ton of water in there and doing its job. Still staying very soft and relatively dry, a little bit damp on top, but relatively dry. And all that water has gone through. So again, 2.5 cups of water, 10-inch square piece of fleece. I don't think that you would feel too bad with a small puppy laying on top of this. Just rub that paper towel in there, and it's just a little bit damp on the top.